I can't get enough of Nauvoo. Just everything that it symbolizes in early Latter-day Saint history for those pioneers, and just how they express their faith, their sacrifice, and just having that eternal perspective. And I figured it'd be a great place maybe to share my own thoughts as a new member of the church and just slow down and just take a moment to really ground myself in the spirit of Nauvoo, because I can't get enough of this place. If you're new to the channel, my name is David. Welcome to church visit number 49 of 52 churches in 52 weeks, round 3. So as I record this, it's an early Sunday morning. Kind of have the temple to myself right now. I'm sure there'll be a little bit of traffic here in a bit. But with Nauvoo, man, like as I record this, it's the summer 2025 in July, and the Nauvoo Pageant is in full swing. And if you've never been a part of it before, I highly suggest you figure out a way to make it out here. They just do a beautiful production with so many volunteers and performing missionaries, and it just really brings to life the stories of the early Latter-day Saint pioneers, their journey, and how they kind of built this foundation of the restored gospel. My understanding is it goes pretty much for the Nauvoo Pageant all throughout July and the first few days of August, but the performing missionaries, and especially Sunset on the Mississippi, like I can't get enough of it. And I had to make another visit here as I reflect over the past year for my own covenant path and spiritual journey. So a year ago, as I record this, I did my very first proxy baptisms inside the Nauvoo, Illinois temple. And I had a lot of anxiety. I was very, very nervous, even after doing so many temple open houses in the past. And I remember walking in and just kind of having kind of this burning sensation. Maybe I had just been in the car too long or something. But I remember just afterwards, just walking out with that peace I'd always heard about. But it was very profound. It was very different to me overall, you know? And now, fast forward a year to right here, I've been preparing for my endowment and covenants. And I think as someone coming from a previous Protestant background, I know the whole when you don't have covenants. And I've been prepping with lessons for that. I'm going to be doing some interviews, hopefully, if everything pans out before a few life events happen. And I kind of figured, well, as I was learning and prepping myself, like a lot of the temple endowment, a lot of it originated here in Nauvoo at the Red Brick store. So to prepare myself, I kind of figured, let me, like, I'm like, when it comes to learning, I need to be there, you know, I need to put myself, like, my thing is driving, you know, I'm not the best reader. It just doesn't engage me the same way as actually setting foot in places. And with the Red Brick store and this origination for the endowment ceremony, like I wanted to be a part of this. And it's been interesting as I've been getting closer. I'd have church members kind of warn me that there would be this spiritual resistance to a certain extent. And at the time, it was kind of like, yeah, whatever. I kind of brushed it off. But as I have gotten closer to it, it's like I've had a number of setbacks with an injury that like I couldn't sit like for at least a month. And it's like, this is what I do. Like I sit, I drive, I travel all over the country. Then also I've had setbacks trying to sell my house and different things like that. So it's been this push as I've been getting closer to this endowment. And in a way though, it's kind of deepened my preparation for this. And if that didn't happen, I wouldn't be able to really sit in this week and to really feel something different as I prepare for these covenants with Heavenly Father, and just the obedience and the Gospels and the chastity and the consecration and the sacrifice that you make. So I think in this video, I don't know how far I'm going to get with it. I don't know if the rain is going to hold off, so I may need to record some other time here. But it may just be kind of walking a fine line of information and vulnerability, and maybe more so purpose, you know? So I'm going to walk around. Let's take a look. Real quick, wanted to share some great news. This third round, we've been driving to defeat childhood cancer with our fundraiser with St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. So far, as of this recording, we have now hit $34,000. We are less than $1,000 away from triggering a 2-for-1 match from a generous anonymous donator, which will then hit our $52,000 goal for this round. So for all the support from all of you, want to say thank you very much. Let's finish strong.
I've got an early start on the temple in the morning.
I've never known a leader to be ashamed of his following doctrine.
I am not ashamed.
Well, that's an amazing.
So I had a little bit of a wardrobe change. I finished up at the Nauvoo Performances Sacrament meeting. I was so curious to attend this, to go to a church service with various Nauvoo performing missionaries, cast members, and families who participate during this week. So I'm going to share a little bit about that service in a bit here. But I think one of the most delightful things about Nauvoo isn't just the rich history behind everything, but it is that pioneer spirit that comes to life thanks to the various volunteers who take time and will use that to serve. So I visited Nauvoo 2 times last year. The first time was to do proxy baptisms for the very first time. And I didn't really give myself any time to do anything. And fortunately, like after my first proxy baptisms, I heard this music in the distance, not knowing what it was. So I started walking through like this little village. And as I got closer, I noticed a lot of cars were parked and they were performing the Sunset on the Mississippi. It was just this uplifting, amazing performance from the performing missionaries. Fortunately for me, I had some elder and sister Davies. They were serving as senior missionaries who recognized me from the YouTube stuff. And like they gave me a crash course on everything Nauvoo with the very little time that I had there. So with this visit, with this year, I had a few friends who helped navigate me this time. I also learned that there's a free app that just kind of gives you the full rundown and details. So if you are visiting, you know what events are going on, what productions are happening, and the times all in real time. So I wish I had known that before. So for this visit, I ended up spending about 3 days in Nauvoo, and I still feel like I barely scratched the surface. So of course, like there's the Nauvoo, Illinois temple. One thing I didn't realize before, after talking with some on-site missionaries, is just how often non-member tourists will try to walk inside knowing nothing about the temple or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. If like a few years ago, that would have been me. It almost, to me, it's like, what is this building? I'm very curious. It's kind of centered as kind of the core point of the town. What is this? Like almost like a Capitol building, I think, if you're not a member. So now, as I record this in the summer of 2025, they're building a new visitor center right across the street. Whereas the one right now, it's amazing. However, it's tucked in the corner of town, and this location will probably help out a lot because missionaries can be on site for those visitors who maybe they need a picture, maybe they're just curious about what the building is. You can kind of share much more about what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is all about. One of the most fascinating things to me about Nauvoo is the performing missionaries. So these are young adults aged 18 and 25, and they serve like any other missionary. They have a companion, they're studying the gospel, they're taking time to serve, but just in a different way through production. So they have three different groups. So one, you have band members for their summer cast, and they're providing that uplifting music. Then you also have the performing missionaries with the stage performances. So they're delighting the crowds with these performances and vignettes. And then you also have the production crew. This probably would have been me if I was younger and I had been a member of the church, because they provide the lights, the production, the props, the lighting. They kind of make sure, or they make sure that the show is off to a successful start, and they're all under senior leadership just to provide guidance. They have a lot of energy, there's friendliness, there's a spirit to set the tone for the entire town of Nauvoo. I talked to a couple different people after the Nauvoo pageant. Unfortunately, the British pageant that I was attending got washed out. But they'll have what's called a core cast. And this core cast, it consists of about 20 Latter-day Saint actors and actresses, and they perform every night. And many are portraying historic figures like Joseph Smith, Emma Smith, Parley P. Pratt, Brigham Young, and the age range usually goes from late teens to 50s. I actually had the chance to talk to both the actor and actress who played Joseph and Emma Smith. And from what Emma told me is she didn't specifically audition to be Emma Smith, but there's no specific roles, but the directors, after they take a look at all the auditions, they'll kind of fit the right part for each actor or actress. Then I think probably my favorite is the family cast. So with these productions, it consists of about 130 participants. So each year, families are invited to come together to be a part of this. So dads, moms, kids, and they're brought in for a rotation. So in 1 week, they will rehearse. During the day, they'll also help run the county fair type of activities. And then in week 2, then they're performing in both the Nauvoo and the British pageants. Every single night, other than Sunday and Monday, they have a rest day. So it's beautiful to watch just entire families serving side by side, that where they're participating in the story, not just watching it. With this being a church channel, it felt only appropriate to make this visit and actually attend a church service. So when I got wind of the Nauvoo Performances Sacrament meeting, I had to go to this because it consisted of the cast and the crew and the various families that participate in the pageants, along with temple workers and leaders and just all kinds of musicians. So when I got inside, like, this place in the pageant headquarters was absolutely packed. In my little local ward right now, when it comes to serving the sacrament, like right now we only have 5 priesthood holders that assist with it. Here, there were over 24 young Aaronic priesthood members who were passing the sacrament out. It was just so different to me. I'm sure like that's very customary, like in Utah and in southern Idaho and in northern Arizona. So, but then when the first hymn started, I was just completely surrounded by talent because the harmonies was next level. Like for me, like I joked afterwards, like I felt like if this was an episode of American Idol, I would have been the very first elimination because I can't sing worth a hoot. There were various talks given as well from some of the performers, and one talk that really kind of just stuck in my head was this young sister who mentioned that she opened by saying to close your eyes and just think of the one time that drew you closer to Jesus more than any other. So after the sacrament meeting, like I'm just talking to other people, we're discussing this, and I'm asking them, like, what were you thinking when you closed your eyes when she said that? Because for me, it was like my baptism into the church. I never would have had that if I hadn't joined. And I was hearing different stories from other members here. And one senior missionary that I talked with, he mentioned it was like the thing that drew him closer to Christ was just serving others, So it was just great to hear the various stories that brought people closer and stronger and deepened their faith. But being in that room, being in that headquarters, there's just so much devotion and focus on Christ and just a unified worship. Like this was just a real treat. And it was one of those moments where you feel the Spirit just by being in the same place.
On such a journey in the winter and in our state of poverty would seem like walking into the jaws of death. But because of the blessings we received in the temple, we put our trust in our Heavenly Father and walked down Harley Street. And instead of sorrow, we felt to rejoice.
Right now, we're outside the red brick store. Up until a few weeks ago, I didn't understand or know about the significance and the importance that it served in early Latter-day Saint history. A few days ago, I got to go inside and was given a tour, and I was able to learn how this building organized the Relief Society, and it also was where Joseph Smith introduced the endowment for some of those early church founders. And as I've been preparing for my own endowment, taking temple prep lessons and just looking into different resources online to really kind of to get myself a better knowledge, a better understanding, because I've been kind of preparing myself for the endowment for that Protestant brain to kick in, because there are just so many, as I progress in my own conversion, there are things that are so deep inside my mind that it takes a while, it takes discussion, it takes more steps where some of those things will surface to the top. And I think one of the most profound shifts to go from Protestant to a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is this idea of, whereas before, like I was subscribed to this new covenant that often wasn't really defined in a way where it was you enter into this new covenant when Jesus Christ died on the cross, where it is you're introduced by faith, you are sealed by His grace, and then it's symbolized by baptism. And with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's much more of a mutual relationship with Heavenly Father, because that new covenant, that Protestant thinking, like I often felt like I was a passive recipient of grace, and it was a very one-sided relationship. And as long as I just would keep forgiving myself, there was nothing, like I know Jesus, I know God, He would forgive me, but like, was I doing the best on my part? There was nothing technically binding like a covenant that was often so featured with God and the children of Israel to make those covenants. So as I have gone this path and I've been preparing for this endowment, this trip to ground me, to just go inside the red brick store and kind of learn a little bit more about that and the history, for me, I just need to, like, if these walls could talk, I think that's kind of the biggest thought that has kind of just had this scream inside of me for what this has been about. So I think if you are a lifelong member of the church and like you grow up with this idea of the temple and covenants, like you probably can sometimes take it for granted. And for me to see this and to transition, I have seen the impact on my own life where when you don't have covenants, I haven't talked about this, and this is again where like I'm trying to walk this line between sharing and not oversharing. Like I want to be vulnerable, but I don't want to air past wounds for sympathy points, you know? This is much more for purpose and for covenant and to demonstrate different things. So there was a point, and this is what was very weird about my conversion story, is I made my first visit to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for week 9 of my second round. And I didn't want to attend the one that was closest to me. And that was because, and you can see it in my week 13 round 2 video, when as a lifelong Protestant, to make my second Mormon church visit. And I kind of talked about a past where I kind of went through this Samson type of feeling where like my hair was cut when it came to narcissistic abuse. So I didn't want to like focus too much on what exactly happened. But to share, like I was married for a year. And going into that, I was so adamant about covenant marriage. Like that was the only concept of a covenant that I knew, because I wanted it to be Christ-focused between God, husband, and wife. And to me, like a covenant marriage, even though I didn't really know much about covenants, I knew it was a promise. And to me, that was just a beautiful thing. And the first 10 months was absolutely amazing. And I had 2 stepchildren that I just love to this day. And things happened. I won't go into the specifics to protect privacy, but she was unfaithful. And I don't want to kind of beat that down, you know? And it was very difficult to go through that. So I won't go into the specifics in this video, but because that covenant marriage was just so strong for myself, like I refused to take off my wedding band because I had made a covenant to God as part of myself and for my marriage. And it was very difficult to go through that because I made this covenant. I didn't want to lose that. And even though there were circumstances where everyone around me, like I even had my marriage counselor telling me, I told him what happened. And you know it's a bad sign when your marriage counselor messages you to call me immediately, let me get you in contact with the best divorce lawyers that I know. And that was kind of my first kind of, I need to move forward on this, even though I want to maintain that covenant, you know? And what was very difficult about that is I was going to a church and it was very much pomp and circumstance, you know? And it was difficult for me to reach out to my pastor who didn't really know me, who didn't really know his flock. And if I would tune in to the next church service, everyone was just happy and gleeful, and he was putting on a show. And here I was with my life destroyed, reaching out, I'm not getting any answer from my pastoral leadership. And I don't want to just kind of take one example and bash all evangelical type of preachers or churches. Later on, I did reach out to a different church, and that pastor invited me for a cup of coffee. He was a big bright spot, when I was at rock bottom. So as I was investigating the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, what was weird to me is I didn't want to go to the nearest one, because that had significance, because my wife at that time had gone into a car accident, very, very minor, but it was right outside the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. At that time, I knew nothing about the church. I just knew it was this church building. So when I did my first search, I'm like, I am not going there and reopening that history. But anyway, I kept on that wedding ring up until about maybe the last week of the divorce. And finally, someone came into my life who kind of helped me put some perspective on things. So when I started to investigate the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, covenants have a mutual, a sacred, a binding agreement was so much different to me, because in what I experienced, it was this example, and again, not sharing too much information, where there was a thought process, we'll say, where, well, God is just going to forgive me. God's grace is going to take care of this. As my life and several families' lives were destroyed. And I thought a covenant marriage was what was going to be binding, So one of the tricky aspects from that is I knew I was going to have to take off my wedding band. I knew that because of no real fault of myself, that covenant was broken. So this is very different to me. And what's been really, this week has been very weighty, we'll say, because I got word that everything that was going on in the background has now crashed. So there's I don't want to say karma, but just God has blessed what was deserved, we'll say. So that's what happens when you don't have covenants. And for me, with the endowment coming up, to make these, to just solidify my faith and just to make it mutual when it comes to the law of obedience and the gospel and sacrifice and chastity and consecration. I'm doing this for me, Heavenly Father and me. And I'll be surrounded with this community. I think that's what many people who are not members of the Church of Jesus Christ have. I don't know, when you really dig deep into the theology and the different aspects of that and how that has an impact on people with their relationship with Heavenly Father. So that has been a very dramatic shift that I haven't even realized up until this week being here, because I just had to be grounded here. That's how I learn. I'm not the best when it comes to reading. A lot of times it's just not maintaining the same way. If I'm actually, my feet are on the ground, if these walls could talk with a red brick store, and what that significance had for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and to bring back the importance of covenants. probably put the kibosh on this video and call it a day. I want to give a big thanks to those that helped assist to make this trip possible. Stuart, Elise, Rebecca, Juanita, the various missionaries I also spoke with that helped me learn much more. If I listed everyone that assisted with this trip, it would look like the end credits of a movie. But just thank you to everyone that helped out with this. There's so much more that I want to cover for this video. Just due to time constraints, I may need to make some follow-up videos at some point because I haven't even touched on the Carthage jail, and to step in the very same room to see the very door that is just so significant in Latter-day Saint history, where Joseph and Hyrum Smith were martyred. Again, if these walls could talk, it was just a very, very, very different, surreal type of moment to be inside there. Also, I think for my own personal journey, a year ago, doing the Nauvoo, Illinois temple for my first proxy baptisms, I walked in with a lot of anxiety, a lot of nerves. Now, fast forward a year later, I also was able to do some again, and it was kind of this spiritual, this symbolic checkpoint to a certain extent, and I could tell I'm much more confident now inside the temple. So I think that's helped as I prepare for my endowment. Now, for you, if you have any interest in ever going to Nauvoo, I would highly say yes, do it. 10 out of 10, highly recommended. As I record this, it's July 2025. The Nauvoo and the British pageant are both going on up until Saturday, August 2nd. Now, if you see this video later, but you're still interested in visiting in the future, the pageants typically run during the majority of July into the early days of August. But even if you don't make it out for the pageants, there's several performing missionaries, there's several staff, several volunteers who are just, again, bringing to life Nauvoo. There's plenty of things to do. I was there for 3 days. I don't even feel like I scratched the surface to everything there. And finally, if water is your thing, I've also been invited by Go and Do Travel for their Wavemakers 2025 LDS Podcaster Cruise. This has an all-star lineup. I just want to meet everyone here. Greg Madsen of Quick Media, Jacob Hansen of Thoughtful Faith, the Paul brothers from the Stick of Joseph, Jasmine Rapley, who I've been watching her videos to prepare for my temple endowment, huge help. Dave Butler will be there, as well as Cardin Ellis from Ward Radio. So should be a lot of fun. If you want a discount and want to be a part of this, in the link in the description box below, just type in 52 and 52 for a discount. But other than that, I think we're going to wrap it up. We have just 3 church visits left in this round. I'm in the middle of a move, so I'm not entirely sure how fast those videos will come out. But if you do have any recommendations, would love to see those in the comments below. I'm going to sign off, but until next time, hope you have a good one.